Welcome along on this Friday evening to the state of Scottish football. Nearly running a bit late after some technical issues there with my in-house Alexa. But I'm delighted to be joined tonight by Glen Schrueder of the Red Tinted Glasses and obviously the state of Scottish football. Glen, how are you?
Yeah, Colin, pleasure to join you this Friday evening. I'm well, thank you. And yeah, technical issues on both sides, but it's modern technology for you. But excited to preview what's set to be another exciting weekend of cinch Premiership action.
Who doesn't love a bit of cinch? That is the question. It's not the question we're asking, but it's a question I'm asking. Who doesn't love a bit of cinch? Welcome to everyone who's joining us. We're live tonight on Facebook, on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, wherever you find your podcast streams, you will find us. And we have 6 matches to cover, so get involved in the comment section. I'll bring your comments up on screen. First of all, though, Glenn, I'm coming a bit closer to you. We're going up the way. We are heading north to Dingwall for what is the early kick-off tomorrow. It's a half-12 kick-off at Dingwall at the, was it Global Victoria Stadium they call it now?
Global Energy.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Ross County versus Rangers. If you are putting this one on the coupon, I'll give you the odds. As always, gamble responsibly. Ross County are 17-2. The draw is 9-2, and Rangers are the red hot favourites at 2-7. Going into this, Ross County have 2 wins and 5, whereas Rangers are 4 out of their last 5. Returning for Rangers is a big one this week, Glenn, because they have Aribo, Kent, and new signing Diallo ready to go.
Yeah, if you're putting the early kickoff on your coupon though and it lets you down, more fool you. First of all, but as Colin says, gamble responsibly on that. But yeah, Rangers, I didn't kind of really take much notice of their team in midweek until about half time when I saw the score come through and I thought, oh, it's a weakened team, I suppose, but by all accounts, by recent standards anyway. But yeah, they're certainly getting some key men, as me and Struan were discussing on Monday night show, Joe Aribo being one, and that signing that they pulled off yesterday in Amad Diallo, it came out of nowhere really, but for the money Man United paid for him, it just seems a bit of shrewd business, I think. Interesting to see if he hits the ground running. Obviously not had a lot of game time at Old Trafford, but similar Joe Aribo maybe he'll take a half maybe to find his feet, get back into the groove of Scottish football again. But with important games coming up for Rangers, it's vital for them to have these players back and getting them integrated back into their squad, I feel.
From the Serie A to the Premier League to the Highlands, how do you think this one will go if he does get his debut? Do you think he'll be given the chance to play football, or is he instantly just a target because of that price tag that we've been speaking about?
I think he's interested as a target straight away. Probably be Malky Mackay have that in the team talk. Let him know he's involved in a game. The classic pre-match chat. Rough him up. Don't let him settle. Probably be the same. I think in general, Ross County have obviously got a unique style this season. I've played some nice stuff under Malky Mackay. Maybe been unlucky recently with some of their results, but I think Malky will try his best to make this a difficult game for Rangers tomorrow and try and unsettle a few of their players that maybe aren't used to what is probably likely to be with the yellow storm warning for the north of Scotland tonight. Might be a bit of an uncomfortable weather for those players tomorrow as well.
Yeah, as we mentioned, the Rangers welcoming back Ryan Kent from his suspension as well. You've got Aribo coming back from international duty, and obviously the new signing Amad Diallo. Now, I mean, Dingwall, as it has always been, has been a very difficult place for a lot of teams to go this season. Celtic only just recently before Christmas experienced that when it took a 96th/97th minute winner from Anthony Ralston to give them the 3 points. And to be honest, I mean, as you say, Ross County, they've played some decent football. 3 wins in their last 5 at home. It can't just be taken for granted that Rangers can turn up and get the 3 points. They are going to have to put in a shift.
Yeah, absolutely. I like I said, 97th minute goal for Celtic. I thought it was just playing until Celtic found the back of the net. But no, I mean, even against Motherwell as well, Ross County were down to 10 men, am I right in saying, and won that game 3-1 as well. So that they're doing well at home, and as I said there earlier, playing nice stuff. But when they need to, do the dirty side of the game, they're doing that effectively as they did against Celtic recently at home. Obviously, a good win against Hibs as well. In mid-December, they've got Aberdeen coming to Dingwall on Tuesday night. So a couple of big games for Ross County, maybe looking for a bit of a reaction from midweek. But I think Mulkey will have his players right up for it. And any Rangers fans or anybody that thinks this will be an easy game for Rangers, I think will have something else to think about come kickoff.
Yeah, I mean, Ross County, we saw only a couple of weeks ago when they got the points against Motherwell with 10 men. It can be a very difficult opponent on the day. When you look at Rangers, obviously Diallo has come in to replace the injured Hadji, who will be out for the rest of the season. In terms of transfer dealings at Ibrox, do you think that's done? Or do you think that Van Bronckhorst maybe has another one or two up his sleeve?
I think it'll depend if there's any, maybe to call it deadwood, maybe shifted out players that aren't getting minutes or not getting the game time they're expecting. Maybe as players that are on the fringe and will benefit from game time elsewhere. Maybe if I was Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, I'd maybe want a little bit more up top. Obviously, Kemar Roof's had his injury problems. Morelos is currently away with the Colombian national team as well. And I think, we saw against Livingston and Aberdeen in recent weeks, Rangers have struggled for goals. So maybe something up top. Defensively, they still seem to be sound enough, but maybe lacking a bit of firepower. Maybe those players coming in, maybe that's what Amad Diallo's for. But when the title race is shaping up to be this tight, you don't want to be left short.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Morelos missing out for the big game through the week, which we will be previewing here on the State of Scottish Football. But you still saw guys like Sakala come in and do a job for Rangers this season. Roof coming back from injury as well. So, I mean, there is goals in that Rangers team. We saw Arfield popping up with the winner against Livingston the other night. What did you make of that game? Again, very close one, and I mean, shouts all over the park for penalties, but Rangers kind of grinding out the victories at the minute.
Yeah, I hear that 8-page document from Livingston's on its way to the SFA just now, but they are in there. I was saying to you in midweek about how key that win for Celtic might be in the context of the season, holding on in there towards the end of the game. But just how key could that Scott Arfield be in terms of Rangers defending their title? It's all bubbling away nicely. There's big games coming up. We speak about Rangers getting a point at Pittodrie. That was a tough place to go. Dingwall is not the easiest of venues by any stretch of the imagination. And then you want to be carrying momentum into Wednesday. But look, there's going to be twists and turns, ups and downs over the next couple of months. But it's who can keep that momentum and probably who can keep as many players fit as possible.
What you've got as well is you've got this game kicking off at 12:30, and whatever the score is up in Dingwall, that'll make its way back to Celtic Park as soon as possible. And if Rangers drop points, Celtic will go into the game against Dundee United buoyant. If not, and Rangers get the 3 points, that gives them that bit of cushion, and the pressure goes back onto Celtic. And that's one of the great things about Scottish football is when you do get a title race, it's generally one of those kind of neck and neck all the way. It's been a couple of years now since we've had one of those, but for me, I used to love going to the games, radio from your phone in the ear, just waiting to hear when the 87th minute penalty was awarded at Ibrox as you're travelling wherever all over Scotland. But it's good to finally have that, considering how far behind Celtic were last season. It just shows you what a difference a season can make, and what the difference with Steven Gerrard departing, Van Bronckhorst coming in, and obviously the impact of Ange Postecoglou at Celtic. Yeah,
absolutely. I like how I'm trying to agree about being in a title race. I think the closest we ever came to that sort of thing was huddling around a phone pre-Motherwell when Tom Rogic lashed an 88th minute winner into the top corner at Kilmarnock. That was about as close as I felt to being in a title race.
I won £120 that day. I love that day. I stuck him on in play. Looking at it, as we said, don't know if the transfers are probably over at Ibrox now. The Punt comes in with a point here about John Souttar, the 400 grand for John Souttar, considering the injury to Hadji and what will probably be quite an expensive loan fee for Diallo. I don't see that one going through between now and was it Monday night?
Monday night, yeah. I mean, that's another thing as well, I suppose, is, much debated is the financial situation down Ibrox way. That's maybe for another night for a deep delve into them, but it maybe is a bit of an indication the fact that they're only dealing in loans. Obviously, they offloaded Juninho Bacuna as well. It's a wage off the bill, undisclosed fee for him, but there's been no real talk around this John Suter deal. Obviously, played in midweek as well. I'm a bit surprised that they haven't pushed the boat out in terms of getting him. Maybe they are just happy to wait until the end of the season.
It'll be interesting to see, obviously, with Craig Halkett going off injured, Smith going off injured for Hearts, and we'll get to Hearts shortly. But maybe that's one of the things that puts that deal on the shelf until the summer. So let's get into this. We're already 10 minutes in, and there's lots of comments coming in. I am keeping everybody's comments for each of the different games, so don't worry if you've not seen your comment come up yet. It will come up later on. Predictions for this one: Ross County versus Rangers. It is the 12:30 kickoff on Sky. Glenn, I'll let you give us the first prediction of the night.
I think Ross County will score in this game, probably through Regan Charles-Cook, a player who I'm interested to see what happens to him over the next 72 hours as well. I think Rangers will just have enough, probably controversial decision in there, I'm sure, but 2-1 to the away side is what I'm going to say.
2-1 to the away side. I'm kind of on similar paths as you. I just don't think Ross County have enough in them to get a goal. I think Rangers' defence has been pretty solid all season. I mean, there's been the occasional slip-up, but you could say that about every team in Scotland this season. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory for Rangers. Let us know what your thoughts are on the game, what you think the score will be as we travel further south, back to the good flat lands of Glasgow as Celtic take on Dundee United. Again, if you're putting this one on the coupon, Celtic are 1-8. The draw is 7-1, and Dundee United are a massive 16-1 for this game. Celtic going to the back of this with 4 wins and 5. Just that drop couple of points at St Mirren. Dundee United finally getting a bit of form after quite a few losses, winning the last 2, including the one in the Cup. Looking at returns for Celtic, it's still unclear how long it will take for the likes of Callum McGregor and Gucci to come back into the side. But there was an interesting point, and I just want to bring this one up before we go into the game. Ange Postecoglou was asked today about the returning Karamoko Dembele. I mean, we've been speaking about this boy since he was 13, 14 years old. He's been the next wonder kid in Scottish football. It does sound as though he is coming back into full training with the team next week. Boy's only got 6 months left on his contract. I'd hate to see him going down the sort of Islam Farouz route. I think there has to be some civilised conversation at Celtic Park and tie him down for a bit of a longer contract and let the boy prove himself.
Yeah, I think it's difficult when a player's been out injured for so long. I suppose with the change of manager this season as well, does Ange give him another year and say, kind of similar what Aberdeen have done with Mikey Devlin with the new manager, say, here's a deal till the end of next season, go and prove yourself fitness wise. Although probably from a Celtic point of view, they're going to hope it works out better than Mikey Devlin's has. But yeah, this guy's been around for what seems like forever. And yet he's just struggled to make that breakthrough, as you say, through injuries and maybe not getting a chance as much as he'd have expected. So it's a risk if Celtic were to let him go. And say, you're probably right, in the background there are discussions ongoing about what's best for his and Celtic's future.
I mean, it's incredible to think he's only 18. I mean, there's still so much development there to come from him. Last season, I think it was just a manager that didn't want to take a gamble on him because of the pressure of what was there in front of him. But then stunting his development, the bad tackle against Bristol City in pre-season, and you miss him for half a year. So it'll be interesting to see if there's maybe some contract news on the table for Karamoko in the next week or so. One player who definitely won't be playing for Dundee United tomorrow is Giandro Fuchs. He is making a move for a sort of a low six-figure fee, I believe, to Peterborough United. Peterborough did try and sign him in the summer, but they finally got their man in the January transfer window. His contract was running out at Dundee United. They only had a couple of months left, so about time that Dundee United probably cashed in on their man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, when you're coming so close to the end of the window, it's catch-22. Do you cash in and try and get somebody in between now and Monday evening, or do you keep a player that's maybe unhappy at the club because you've denied him somewhere a move to what he feels is maybe a better prospect than Dundee United, a chance to go and prove himself down south? He's been a key player for Dundee United in terms of their attacking play. Going forward, I've been impressed by him this season, especially at the last time Dundee United went to Parkhead. I thought he was probably one of the better Dundee United players that day. I think he might be a miss. Obviously, Dundee United signing Tony Watt, but for me, still lacking a lot of firepower and creativity at the top end of the park. Again, it's a bit of pressure on Tam Courts over the next couple of days. Obviously, a tough fixture awaits on Saturday, but then replacing that, are they going to put their faith in a youngster? Maybe it'll be interesting to see.
All the usual jokes coming through here. Lanky 67, Red Scotland, all with the same joke in there. Here we goes. That one will be departing with him. Paul Cockwell, our resident Highbee, coming in to say, hi guys, what's happening? Don't worry, Paul, we've not covered Hibs yet. We'll get to them later on. We are at Celtic Park for Celtic versus Dundee United. Now, this is an interesting one for me, maybe not so much for you guys or maybe others listening, but this game could see the return of Frenchman Christopher Jullien, who has been out for 13 months and ironically got injured against Dundee United 13 months ago. Now, what a chapter of the story that would be if he was to make his I say his debut, it feels like his debut. He's been out for so long. His return against the team where he picked up the injury, considering the sort of the unsteadiness, let's say, of Carl Starfelt in the game on Wednesday night, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets thrown in at the deep end on Saturday.
It's funny, I actually thought Starfelt had a good game for what I was paying attention to, some of his last-ditch tackles, and you thought the opposite. But look, everyone's got their own opinion, and it's funny how everyone takes different views on the games, but that is a huge boost for Celtic's defence because, as you say, it has been ropey at times. It has looked unsteady, especially at set pieces. But Christopher Jullien offers so much height and just a sense of steadiness to that Celtic backline that we saw before his injury. But not only is he a benefit in the backline, he's also a threat from set pieces at the other end of the park when Celtic are going forward. For me, Celtic aren't exactly the tallest team, maybe near Beaton aside. So to add that bit of height up top, give you something in the attacking third as well from set pieces will be a huge boost for Celtic. And yeah, if you can get into the team, stay fit first and foremost, and get minutes under his belt, that, especially with the run of games Celtic have got coming up, it's tough fixtures, so you need your best players available. And Christopher Jullien is probably one of Celtic's better defenders.
I actually looked at how many games he'd missed. He's missed 59 games with this injury. So it's obviously a kind of one where you don't want to push him back in too early and cause any sort of injury again. But, I mean, I feel like this is the perfect chance. Wednesday night will come and he'll probably, Ange Postecoglou will stick with his tried and trusted. But a game against Dundee United at Celtic Park, I think that's a good opportunity to integrate him back in, give him some minutes. Someone who has been taking advantage of Celtic's injury crisis and international duties is Georgios Giakoumakis. Now, I had to say that right because I said it wrong on Axon and get absolutely slaughtered for it. He's got 2 goals in 2 games now, and the headline question we've got here, Glenn, can he make it 3-3 for Celtic at the weekend?
Well, to be honest, there's no reason why not. I kind of thought his Celtic future was done before it started after that penalty miss against Livingston, was it, Colin? He's fair play. He's grabbed his chance excellently, took that goal on Wednesday night at Tynecastle really well. He's a player now that's got confidence, and sometimes that's what strikers, goal scorers need, is that confidence. They need to find the back of the net. He's linking up well. O'Reilly came in to the Celtic team midweek, and I was really impressed with him, and great from a Scotland point of view as well to see James Forrest looking fit and flying down a wing again. And I think if Giakoumakis can get the service to him, he can thrive off of that as well. We saw with that goal, as I said on Wednesday, that he did feed off that service coming in from the wide area. And look, there's no reason. Dundee United have struggled of late, obviously picking up recently. But this will be a fixture that Giakoumakis must be thinking, if I can get another couple of goals under my belt here, then I'm starting on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I mean, it is. You just want to keep that momentum going when you're a striker. You get one goal, you move on to the next game, you maybe get two, and then keep going and keep going. And he knows that when he comes back, you'll have Kyogo, who'll be coming back from injury, who's been Celtic's star striker all season. Yeah. You've got Daisen Maeda, who's currently on international duty with Japan as well. So he knows there's a fight for his jersey there. It's just, if he keeps scoring the goals, he'll keep the rest of them out of the team. And that's the best way you can approach it. And I've got to say, I was impressed towards the end of the game at Tynecastle on Wednesday night, because he was using his strengths, like his physicality, his height, to win free kicks, to slow the game down, to get the pressure off what was at times relentless from Hearts in the last 15, 20 minutes, when a lot of the Celtic midfield was sort of looking dead on its feet. In fact, sometimes not even on its feet. We saw O'Reilly kind of going down with cramp. But yeah, I think he offers something different to that Celtic side, and his movement is starting to improve. So I'd like to see what he can do at Celtic Park, and hopefully put that hoodoo from the Livingston game behind him.
Yeah, I think as well, for sometimes players coming in from different leagues, he's come in from Holland, it's just adapting to the different pace and physicality of Scottish football, and it's maybe just taking him that little bit longer. And obviously, the well-documented miss of the penalty and how poor that was maybe did affect him mentally, but now he's up and running. Maybe Celtic will start to see the best of him.
Fingers crossed. Well, certainly in my instance anyway. I know we're coming up to play you guys in a couple of weeks, so you won't be hoping for that. Dundee United got a draw the last time at Celtic Park. Celtic won quite comfortably at Tannadice. How do you see this one going? I'll give you the prediction on this one as well.
I just can't see anything but a comfortable win for Celtic. I know you made the point about the pressure potentially being on Celtic if Rangers were to go and get the 3 points up in Dingwall in the early kickoff, but the way Celtic were in that first half at Tynecastle, that I've not seen a team so relentless for a sustained period, the way they moved the ball. So I'm going to say 3-0 to Celtic.
3-0. I'm actually on the same boat as you. I've went for Celtic to win 3-1. I always predict we'll concede a goal despite having a really good defence, but it's just one of those things. Some comments coming in here. Murray White saying 4-0 to Celtic. Red Scotland agreeing. He plays cleverly, Georgios. I really like him. Lanky67 saying the amount of crosses we have in every game, Giakoumakis will put them away with his head. And Greco P coming in to say cramp is one way of describing O'Reilly bedding down for the evening. It did look as if he wasn't going to get back up at one point, I do have to admit. When I saw the stretcher come on, I'm like, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. So both of us going for Celtic victories. Now, Glenn, we'll take it a wee bit closer to your home and up to Pittodrie for the 3 o'clock kickoff between Aberdeen and bottom of the table St Johnstone. If you're putting this one on the coupon, 7-10 for Aberdeen, which is, I think, is actually pretty good odds. 13-5 for the draw, and 4-1 for St Johnstone. Aberdeen with 2 victories in the last 5, and St Johnstone haven't seen a victory since October. So I don't know how far back we'd need to go for that one.
Probably the last time they came up to Pittodrie.
Well, was that Stevie May that scored the winner?
Yeah, 88th minute.
Oh. Now, Aberdeen look as if they will be without the influential midfielder Ryan Hedges, who is making his way down to Blackburn for a £200,000 transfer. But maybe excitingly, as such, for Aberdeen fans, we might see, how do you pronounce this new boy?
Vicente Bizaouin.
Okay. So he is a 19-year-old ex-Ajax Academy winger from Den Haag who's signed for around £300,000?
400,000 euros. So, yeah.
So something round about that. And it is an exciting prospect, and you've been going on about this in the chat, and as have all the rest of the Aberdeen boys. Excited to see what he brings to the team.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I caught up with a journalist in midweek from Den Haag, kind of to get his thoughts. There is a bit of a sense in the Netherlands that maybe the move has come about a bit early. he could have maybe benefited in staying in Den Haag until the end of the season. Whether or not this was Aberdeen preempting Ryan Hedges leaving before the end of the transfer window, or also, maybe taking advantage of Den Haag in a bit of a financial difficulty, maybe just trying to jump before the rest of the pack that were monitoring him, jump the gun, and obviously he's decided to come to Aberdeen. It's always exciting when you get to see a highlight reel of a player scoring from the halfway line and beating players no end. But as I said about Giakoumakis, he's come in from the Eredivisie. Bazouen's coming in from the Eerste Divisie, the Dutch second division, which is known for being quite an open league, goals galore. So it's hard to kind of compare the quality. And I think when you've gone and lost a player like Ryan Hedges, we're obviously missing Marley Watkins. I think he's out until about April time. Aberdeen have been severely lacking any sort of creative midfielder, creative winger. For those that watch the game on Tuesday night in Paisley will be all too aware of that problem. So there's a real feel from the Aberdeen support that we need Vicente to come and hit the ground running if he does indeed start on Saturday.
Yeah, there's a point coming in here from Now the Punk, who raised it earlier on. He said, interested to hear what Glenn has to say about the Dons. I have many Dons supporting friends who aren't happy. Now, we spoke about this a couple of times throughout the season, Glenn. I mean, it seems to be at one point it's Stephen Glass's Showtime Dons, and at the next point it's Glass must go, the glass is breaking, all the Glass puns that we've had earlier on in the season. Yeah. What is the general consensus up in the Northeast at the minute?
Well, it's the Data Dons, Dave Cormack's Data Dons. Once again, we have all the ball, we have plenty of shots, and we concede with the opposition's first shot on target and ultimately lose the game. Look, Stephen Glass has been trying to implement a style of football this season that's kind of been put more on the front foot. And when you've joined me on Red Tinted Glasses to preview Aberdeen games against Celtic, I've discussed that. And I think you'll have seen when Aberdeen went to Parkhead, they played more on the front foot this season as well against Rangers in particular. We've taken the game to the Old Firm. We were maybe more accustomed to sitting back and, in my opinion, giving them too much respect. Mm-hmm. With the departure of Ryan Hedges, though, he's kind of been integral to that fast-flowing football, getting Aberdeen driving up the pitch and trying to link up well with Christian Ramirez. Obviously, them linking up quite well on a number of occasions for the goals he's scored, which is another concern, I suppose, from an Aberdeen point of view, that the person that's been setting up our top goal scorer is now also departing. But our other issue is, at the other end of the pitch, we're conceding for fun. This season, we don't look defensively sound. We are, attacking in great numbers, but unfortunately, we're leaving ourselves a bit exposed at the back. And we've seen that the games against St Johnstone this season, to kind of put a bit more focus on the game this weekend, have been tight and have been decided by the odd goal. Controversial, I know, at McDermott in particular, but Glass is, I think, around the way Stephen Glass was appointed for Aberdeen is why there is this up and down of Glass in, Glass out. I just really hope it does work out for him. But, on Red Tinted Glasses, we said the next couple of weeks are season defining, and that started in Paisley and it didn't start particularly well. And it's going to, culminate for us as on our show with a Scottish Cup game away to Motherwell. If we were to go out the Scottish Cup mid-February, we've really only just got the top six to fight for potentially, and it's not really what you want come February time.
It does sound like a real pain for Stephen Glass. Strange Love the Doctor comes in with this point earlier on, and we've obviously mentioned the departure of Ryan Hedges. You have Niall McGinn, who left for Dundee earlier on in the week as well. And this is one of the rumours that's been going about all week. Should the Dons take Mikey Johnson on loan? I think he fits, but what does our resident fan think?
Well, it'll be interesting to hear your point of view as a Celtic fan, seeing him go out. But from an Aberdeen point of view, unless it is a permanent deal, I made this point on the show, so it's not like I'm saying anything new. I'm against loaning players from Celtic again. I'm still not over the Ryan Christie heartbreak of having him and what he did for the club to then only come back and haunt us on occasions for Celtic as well. It just doesn't sit well when we're developing teams in and around us if we're developing their talent. So unless there's a deal in place that he would become a permanent Aberdeen player after this loan spell, which I think was initially rumoured, I would be against the deal.
I think you've got to look at this very similarly to the way, and I know the scale of things is very different, so I'm not comparing these people here. But if you look at the transfer of Diallo to Rangers, and Rangers will never be able to afford Diallo at the end of the day, between his wages and whatever Man United would want for him. I think they've spent 20 million with another 20 million potentially to go to Atalanta for him. In terms of Mikey Johnson, if you were looking at a permanent deal, what do you think a fair figure would have been if they said the option to buy is X? What would you say?
And is he not free at the end of the season?
I think he's got another 18 months on his deal.
Oh, does he? Low six figures.
Low six figures is what you'd value Mikey Johnson at?
Yeah.
See, that's where the disparity comes in. A Celtic fan, despite how he's been playing, would be looking for at least 7 figures for Mikey Johnson. Yeah, I mean, what you're looking at is a guy who's played 70 times for Celtic. It's not as if it's someone
Is that how much?
I know. I was surprised myself, to be perfectly honest. But he has, at times, torn European teams apart. He's been integral for Celtic on seasons previous. He just hasn't been able to live up to his full potential. And even at, 22 now, 23? I still think there is a player to come out of there. And I think if you're looking at something around the sort of low six figures mark, then there would have been no chance of a deal being done there. I think what you've got there is the potential to bring someone in to Aberdeen who is probably out with Aberdeen's budget, considering what the price of differences is.
Yeah.
And, I mean, who's to say that his career will ever take off at Celtic? But having that contact up there in Scott Brown and having the previous experience at Aberdeen, it would always put Aberdeen in a top stead if he was to leave Celtic on a free and he wanted to continue his career in Scotland. But I don't think you'd have been talking, I mean, maybe towards the high end of six figures for Mikey Johnson, but nothing towards that end. So that's probably where the disparity comes, especially the wages he's on as well.
Well, we might have a few million in the bank come Monday, so we'll maybe come revisit in the summer.
We'll talk about that now. £4.4 million is the overall bid from Bologna for Calvin Ramsey, a player who I spoke about numerous times, not just here, but also on the Tinted Glasses, about how much I think he's a great player.
Yeah.
So it seems as though the deal, and correct me if I'm wrong, was 800,000 up front.
For a loan.
And then another 3.6 as an option to buy, not a...
But it's first option, so they've got first refusal.
Aberdeen have knocked the bid back. Do you still see Calvin Ramsey being a Dons player by the end of Monday night?
No. I think Bologna have shown their intent to come back with such a high offer already, which I would kind of have taken back by, given Aberdeen had the balls, I suppose, to reject the first offer, which was probably derisory. I know there's a lot of comparison between Ramsey and Nathan Patterson. That's a debate. I don't think you can compare the two. But I think now that Bologna have shown their hand in going to 4 million, I think Leeds United have been rumoured to be monitoring the situation very closely as well. So I think there'd be a few English clubs that will certainly be maybe keeping their finger on the button to see what happens over the next 72 hours or so. But for me, around Calvin, his fitness, I know he's come back for injury, but he was dead on his legs around the hour mark against Rangers. Similar again on Tuesday night when he struggled to get out to Connor Ronan to Connor Ronan had an easy chance to get his shot away. So, there's a lot of feeling that, Calvin will benefit from staying with Aberdeen until the end of the season, get his fitness, more match experience. But it's getting to the sort of money that Aberdeen cannot refuse. A lot of people on Aberdeen Twitter saying today that we don't want to find ourselves in that Scott McKenna situation where, Aston Villa were prepared to offer up to 7 million and the way the deal was worked, and then we ended up only selling him for 2. a little bit later down the line. So it's that fine balance for football clubs. Dave Cormack wants to speak about the finances side of things and the money lost over the COVID period. This is a perfect chance to recoup it. We've got a new stadium coming in a few years again. I'm sure that's in Cormac's mind when he sees these millions banded about. So it's going to be a real test of the board's resolve. But look, it will leave us very short at right back if we do sell in between now and Monday.
Greco P coming back in to say 7 figures for Johnson. Is he worth more than Jason Kerr and Ali McCann combined? Well, not necessarily, because Ali McCann moved for, was it 1.1 million, and Jason Kerr was something along the region of 500-600 grand. I wouldn't say he's worth more than them combined. I'm saying it would probably take about an offer for about £1 million for Celtic to be interested in parting ways with Mikey Johnson at the very least, I would say. Yeah, I mean, that is a big bid, £4.4 million. I don't know how much higher it would go. I don't know if it would get as high as £5 million before Monday. I guess it depends how much Bologna are desperate to sort of secure his services. But then again, you saw the success of Aaron Hickey in Scotland. You just wonder, are Scottish clubs now the ones with the sort of purse strings here? They're the ones that can say, no, we don't want it. But as you said, it's a sort of perilous situation at Pittodrie at the minute. So we'll see how the next sort of 48 hours go. St Johnstone, we've not even spoke about them yet. I mean, where do you start with St Johnstone? So St Johnstone completed the signing this week of Hibs midfielder Marcus Hallberg, who left the club. And to be honest, the guy has a very good CV. It just never really worked out for him at Hibs. Yeah. And another one of their signings who I am very surprised, very, very surprised, if you can't see the sarcasm in my face, that it isn't going to work out for him, is Nadir Chifchi, who is out for the next 6 weeks with a hamstring injury. Consider me shocked.
That's a huge blow for St Johnstone. Obviously signed in, we've been speaking on, well, certainly on Monday nights on State of Scottish Football, St Johnstone needs someone to bring in goals. That was what Nadir was signed for, and now he is on the physio table, not on the pitch. But they've recalled Callum Hendry, obviously spent last season on loan at Aberdeen as well. If you can't see where I'm going with this tomorrow in terms of match winners, then again, get on board. Look what Stevie May did earlier in the season. It's just going to be one of those that feel like they're written in the stars for Aberdeen fans just now. But I think, was it Devine was recalled? I don't know if he's been playing recently. I noticed he's been recalled by his parent club and sent out to Walsall as well. Things just look very bleak in Perth just now. They're probably fortunate they got that draw with Dundee just to keep themselves in line with Dundee. But, is no anybody really surprised that those two teams are finding themselves detached at the bottom of the table? Probably not.
No.
This is a game that St Johnstone will be looking. They've actually, if you want to look at form or head-to-head, St Johnstone have got an excellent record at Pittodrie, and probably my bet of the day is under 2.5 goals in this fixture for tomorrow. They'll be looking to get something from Pittodrie. They'll probably sit in, try and stifle Aberdeen, and it'll be, can Aberdeen break them down or not? And look, Callum Davidson will probably bite your hand off for a point here and say, look, now let's kind of restart our season if they can do so tomorrow.
As I said, it's 4-1 for St Johnstone. Davidson seems to have been backed by the board at St Johnstone. I'm sure, considering his past achievements last year, that plays a lot on their minds, but it's getting to the sort of squeaky bum time for them, it has to be said.
Yeah.
They brought in Hallberg this week. I think they need at least another 2 or 3 signings before you're starting to think that they can maybe start to turn things around. They've got a tricky 3 games coming up. At the minute, I just see them as favourites for relegation, and the direct relegation, not even through the playoffs.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I'd lie if I said I knew what position Hallberg plays. Is he more of an attacking midfielder or?
Yeah, somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, so, they're getting somebody in and around the forward areas, but they're still, for me, their top goal scorer is Stevie May with 2 goals.
Yeah.
That just does not scream form for staying up in the top flight. They need a proven goal scorer, someone that's going to stay fit, but they also need to improve their defensively. I noticed Sean Rooney didn't play in midweek as well. But yeah, St Johnstone, okay, they got a clean sheet on Wednesday, but they do seem to be leaky at the back, and that's a huge problem as well. And yeah, I'm in total agreement. I just can't see anything right now other than them going straight down.
Well, we've had a really good chat about this game, but it is time to get our predictions down. I'm going to go first this time. I think, despite your almost twisting of my arm to suggest that Callum Henry's going to score the winner tomorrow, I think Aberdeen will have this one comfortable. I'm going for a 2-0 victory for the Dons.
Not as confident we'll score that much. Despite me thinking that Callum Henry will score the winner, I'm going to just say it's going to be a 1-0 win to the home side. It's going to be a really edgy affair, purely based on the fact that the prediction for kickoff is 60-mile-an-hour winds. So,
yeah, that sounds like great footballing conditions. Maybe in that case, don't put your coupon on until tomorrow. We've still got 3 games to go, and we've just got under 20 minutes to cover them. The Clyde boys are on. They've made a couple of signings today. They're on at 7 o'clock to go through that, and a bit of their form in the league is turning around as well, so that should be a good listen. But we are going to the capital just now, and it's third plays fourth as Hearts take on Motherwell. Hearts are 5-7, the draw is 13-5, and Motherwell are 15-4. Hearts with their only defeat in 5 games being that game on Wednesday night against Celtic, and Motherwell with 3 wins, a draw, and a loss in their last 5. As we mentioned earlier, Halkett and Smith will be out for Hearts, but returning to the club is Sibic. Now, you'll have to kind of jog my memory. I don't really remember much of his first term at Tynecastle, but Hearts fans seem very excited to have him back.
Yeah, I thought that the same when the boys in the chat were buzzing about him signing. I was thinking who. So, again, correct us if in the comments if we're wrong. I'm assuming he maybe played for them in the Championships season. I must have impressed, with the excitement around Tynecastle, around that signing. But, you said Aberdeen were a good price for this weekend. I think Hearts, despite their injury concerns, are an outstanding price given Motherwell's recent poor run of form. And I think, Hearts, despite that injury worries that they have going into that game, will be buoyed by that performance that they put in on Wednesday, be looking to build from that. And obviously with the addition of Sims, who I thought was impressive, plus
very good. I was really impressed with him.
Yeah, and plus this new defender that they've got that can slot in, obviously, to cover those injuries.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Sims. I thought he gave Starfelt a very difficult 45 minutes in the second half against Celtic at Tynecastle. Talking about Motherwell, they'll be without Donnelly, who was sent off for what seems to be quite a bit of a vicious tackle, as described by our own Jenna Thompson in the chat, in the 0-0 draw with Hibs. Now, they look at it, obviously Donnelly, the midfielder, he's been sort of ever-present in that Motherwell side. So the player that came on to sort of slot in that gap was ex-Bohemians midfielder Ryan Tierney, but it looks as if he picked up a bit of a knock towards the end of that game as well. Now, we spoke about Celtic loanies before. Motherwell have one in Liam Shaw. Could this be a debut at Tynecastle? I mean, it's not as much a debut, but a first start for Liam Shaw against Hearts at the weekend. Do you see him slotting into that Motherwell side?
Yeah, possibly, if that's where Graham Alexander sees him coming in and fits into the game plan. As I said, that away form, they've got to do something to stop the rot on their travels if they want to kind of keep that European ambition alive for further down the line in this season. And maybe the addition of Shaw into that midfield will be exactly what is needed. A bit of fresh ideas coming in from him as well. It's going to be an interesting one because to quote Jenna, I'm not quoting my opinions on Motherwell here, maybe. The Motherwell have kind of resorted to a bit of physicality or hammer throwing, to quote Jenna Thompson, which is normally associated with Hearts. So we maybe see a bit of a physical encounter between these two coming up at the weekend. But if you're chucking Liam Shaw in there, I don't see him as being the type of midfielder that would kind of get involved in a physical battle. I see him maybe more as a technical player. I don't know if you've got a different opinion on that.
I mean, in the limited sort of minutes that I saw him play for Celtic this season, he did look as if he could certainly put himself into a tackle. And I guess that's what he's been put out on loan for, is to sort of experience that. The idea of playing in a sort of physical league, probably a lot more physical than what he was used to at Sheffield Wednesday. So, I mean, kind of throwing them in at the deep end, this is an excellent place to go and kind of have your first start at Tynecastle, as we heard Matt O'Reilly say that after the game on Wednesday night. So, yeah, I mean, Motherwell needs something different to try and change it around. So it's interesting to see what way they will go down. Come back to Hearts and talking about physicality and stuff like that. Robbie Neilson has come out again, having a go at referees, this time pointing out that both offside goals from Wednesday, although looking at it back, according to Sky, Celtic's wasn't. I said to you at the time, I think it was. So, but I mean, Neilson, he's on the verge of getting a suspension, I think. I'm all for managers speaking their mouth. I enjoy it, but he has to learn when to zip it.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's going to come back to cost him because referees, officials will feel more under pressure going to Tynecastle, and there'll be a lot of nervousness around making decisions one way or another. And I think if you just bite your tongue, because he's obviously influential to Hearts as well on the sideline, getting the instructions. If the Hearts obviously feed off of that energy that Neilson brings from the sideline, if he's stuck in the stands, they're not going to be able to feed off of that, and that could blunt them slightly as well. But okay, we've discussed plenty of times Hearts being the surprise package, and I think Robbie Neilson maybe as well, with the way his managerial styles kind of paid off in the top flight this season.
Yeah, I think a lot of the success of the season has come down to the tactics and the sort of motivation that Robbie Neilson's gave them. And look, I know we've got some Jambos in our chat, and they're big fans of him, to the point of maybe if they got beat off at Alkin, like they were going to fly a helicopter over the stadium to Neilson out. But he does have that much influence, and when you look at it, you're thinking, right, we get your point, but the more you go on about it, the worse it looks on you.
Yeah.
Because you're just seen as a complete whinge. And eventually he's just going to end up getting ignored by referees, and it's just going to make him get even more construed. And he's going to... You just see where this is going. This is a volcano ready to erupt at Tynecastle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think he should be channeling that frustration and
other emotion. An 8-page document to send to the SFA.
Possibly. I mean, let's see how much. Well, it certainly worked getting a couple of penalties in the game after. So if that's what he's wanting, then fire it off. But look, Hearts are in an excellent position. That result on Wednesday obviously maybe halted their hopes of catching Celtic, but they should be encouraged by the way they responded in that last half hour in particular, because that was Hearts, for me, that game was over, and out of nothing they found a complete second wind. Look, they've been mightily impressive this season at Tynecastle. I think only Rangers and Dundee. I think, are they the only two teams to win, or was it a draw against Dundee? Oh, well, yeah, before, the game on Wednesday night, I should say. But look, they have been impressive there. If they can just keep that momentum going and focus on things on the pitch instead of Robbie, trying to turn the attention on himself and referees.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to need to come down to start focusing on getting the 3 points and then work on things maybe quieter behind the scenes. Although it was very nice of the Celtic fan, Liam Boyce, to miss that penalty to give us the 3 points on Wednesday night. It's so deliberate, so it was. I fancy Hearts to get the 3 points in this one. I think Motherwell just lack that firepower up front. Van Veen is sort of brilliant one game, then fades out of it the next, and I just don't think that he'll get much joy at Tynecastle. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 Hearts victory.
Yeah, well, I suppose the other person to look out for from a Motherwell point of view is Jordan Roberts, the former Jambo, returning to Tynecastle. They've been in a good bit of form, but I'm going to actually say that Hearts will keep a clean sheet despite their injuries, and a 2-0 win for the Jambos for me.
2-0 for the Jambos. So we have 2 games left to cover in just over 10 minutes, so we'll kind of go through these as quick as possible. We're starting by staying in the capital as Hibs take on Livingston. Another 3 o'clock kickoff. Hibs are 5-7. The draw is 13-5, and Livingston are 15-4. Now, Hibs welcome their new signing, Dimitri Mitchell, which we'll talk about in a minute. But they could potentially be with another forward from Bodo Glimt in the name of Haig. I can't pronounce his first name, so we'll just call him Haig. Who they won't be with is obviously the previously mentioned Hallberg. And it does look as though Scott Allen will move on loan to Kilmarnock, which I think is a great career move for him.
Yeah.
Especially working under ex-Aberdeen manager Derek McInnes.
Yeah.
We're speaking about St Johnstone knowing some of the players they could potentially bring in. Livingston have turned down 2 bids this week for Alan Forrest. I think Forrest is one of those ones, obviously, gets very much compared to his older brother James, but he has been very effective for Livingston this season since he made the move from Ayr, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago now? But if I'm looking at that, a move to St Johnstone for me just now, that's just a step down.
Yeah, it's just, like we discussed there, they just look like a club heading in the wrong direction, and it's not appealing. I think if he bides his time, it's interesting that there's a lot of speculation around him. I think, Martindale's squad haven't really got the recognition that maybe some of them, the individuals in that team deserve. And if they, they're going about their business quietly, impressive, albeit in defeat midweek, they keep going about their business, they could maybe still fancy their chances at a top 6 finish this season.
They're as close to the top 6 as what they are the bottom spot. So
yeah.
Every chance.
I'm just getting a bit looking over my shoulder just now on the likes of Livingston just now.
I mean, speaking about looking over your shoulder, ex-Don Bruce Anderson is having a great season for them. For me, I think he's the key to how successful they'll be this year. There's always one player that sticks out for a Livingston side. I mean, I won't mention the aforementioned J. Emmanuel Thomas because it sets off the trigger in Aberdeen fans. I can see the twitch coming in your eye there.
Yeah.
But Bruce Anderson, he is one of those players that he needed a club to break out on, and Martindale's Livingston just seems to be the perfect fit for him.
Yeah, he obviously never got his chance at Aberdeen. I wasn't sure if Livingston top flight football was going to be the right fit for him. But look, he's come up trumps for Livingston, a couple of vital goals in that game against Dundee when the season restarted. And yeah, fair play to Bruce. He knows where the goal is. I spoke to him at the Player of the Year dinner before. He says, I just want to play. I'm just made for scoring goals. And I was like, well, hopefully I get the chance at Aberdeen. Never did. And he's doing that at Livingston. And this will be a really interesting game. We kind of saw in our chat, Colin, that the kind of frustrations from Hibs fans after that draw against Motherwell. Livingston frustrated for Rangers for so long on Wednesday. If they can do that again this weekend at Easter Road, I wonder how long it'll be that the Hibs fans stay patient for. And, we speak about when teams go to these so-called bigger grounds, it's about turning the home fans and trying to get them on their back and you feeding off of that as well.
I mean, all you have to do is take a look at Cove Rangers' performance against Hibs in the Scottish Cup last Thursday night to see how frustrated a Hibs side can get. It has been impressive passing and possession from Maloney's Hibs since he's taken over, but he's not got the points on the board yet. He got 1 point against Motherwell. Still looking for his first 3.
No, he's got his first 3 against Aberdeen, thanks.
Oh, well, I that slipped my mind. I do apologise. But 2 shots on target against Motherwell. None for Motherwell in that game on Wednesday night. When they came to Celtic Park, they sort of hit the post with Liam Boyce in the first couple of minutes. Not Liam Boyce, sorry. Kevin Nisbet in the first couple of minutes. Another Celtic fan missing a goal.
Yeah.
I just think they're missing that cutting edge, and I just wonder if Maloney will be busy between now and Monday night to try and bring that spark into the midfield, especially now that they've got the money banked from the Martin Boyle transfer.
Yeah, you don't need to tell anybody else about passing the ball nicely and not getting the results. I mean, just asking myself and any other Aberdeen fan this season, we're all too acclimatised to that. But it's a big couple of days coming up for Sean Maloney. As I said, maybe some pressure building slightly based on that frustrating result at Parkhead and more so Fir Park. And I feel if they weren't to pick up 3 points here, it's almost kind of mirroring Stephen Glass. Try and work that into a pun there, Colin. In the fact that these are untested managers and it's such a pressure situation. As soon as they don't get a run of decent results, fans are immediately questioning, was it the right decision? So, Maloney's got some money in the bank, you're right, but he also needs to start getting results as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a new signing that has arrived at Hibs this week is Dimitri Mitchell. Oh, where do we start with this?
Do you want me to shine a light in your face?
Oh, that must be single-handedly the worst introduction video to a player arriving at a club. Now, I remember Mitchell from when he played at Hearts. I didn't pay too much attention to him at the time, but basically for anyone that hasn't seen it, when Mitchell played for Hearts, it was a case of, who are Hibs? Hibs are a small team. Hibs don't. There's only one team in Edinburgh. Blah 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 blah. And the fact that Hibs played up to that in the introduction video for him, for me, it was just absolute cringe. And I generally can't think of a worse player introduction video. If I was a Hibs fan watching that, I'd remember why I hated him.
Yeah. Well, I actually did speak to one of my friends that does support Hibs, and he said it's the most embarrassing thing he's done and why he hasn't interacted with the new signing at all. Scottish football fans unite in slaughtering in English football, and most Scottish football fans slaughtered that Doherty announcement signing. I'm not surprised it's getting the reaction it probably rightly deserves.
It's terrible. If you've not seen it, go and watch it once we finish up in a couple of minutes' time. Let's get to predictions because we still have one game to cover. It's Hibs v Livy. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory for the Hibs.
I'm going to be like Joel Sked. I'm going to go for a draw, 0-0.
0-0. I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised. One game left to cover, and it is at the City of Discovery as Dundee take on St Mirren. Dundee 23-20, the draw is 11-5, and St Mirren are 12-5. Not much in it. Dundee 1-5, whereas St Mirren are off the back of the last 3 victories. Look, let's just get down to business here on this one, because this potentially is one of the least exciting games of football this weekend. It's teams that don't score a lot of goals. I've already just going to throw it out there and say I'm predicting a 0-0 draw because I just don't see where the goals come from. St Mirren, I think, were very lucky on Wednesday night with a fantastic strike from Connor Ronan. Dundee had the chance to pull away from St Johnstone in the league. They didn't do it. This is 2 teams where St Mirren are just better than Dundee United, but Dundee just... They're dreadful.
Yeah, you just don't know what you're going to get from Dundee. They maybe chuck in a good performance. I think they did when they played St Mirren and Paisley earlier in the season and got that win. Likewise, you don't know what you're going to get from St Mirren. They go 11 without a win, and now they're 3 in a row. I just think, you're right. I think St Mirren maybe just edge it quality-wise in terms of the squad. I'm going to say it's going to be a 1-0 away win. That's going to be my prediction, just purely based on, I think, when that opportunity comes, I think St Mirren have the quality that will seize that opportunity. Dundee are quite wasteful in front of goals. Griffiths hasn't not really got up and running. Niall McGinn, maybe he'll get his first start for Dundee this weekend. Could that be influential? I'm not too sure. Obviously, Jamie McGrath as well, another player on the other side of the pitch. Will we see him feature this weekend? Obviously, a lot of talk around his future. He came in and played midweek, but I think St Mirren maybe just have that edge.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Dundee welcoming back guys like Charlie Adam getting back into the squad. Lee Griffiths is starting for them now. Be interesting to see what happens as his contract with Celtic basically ends on Monday night as he's released from his contract. And there has been talk of Zach Rudden from Partick Thistle being linked with a move. So they're obviously trying to find their way out of this relegation battle, but the next 3 games are all at home. St Mirren, Dundee United and Ross County. And I think if they can pick up 5 out of those 9 points, that'll be enough to pull them away from St Johnstone.
Yeah, and they're probably looking at this thinking this is the key start. Get the 3 points this weekend, especially going into a derby game. You want to be going in on a bit of form and then start looking up and trying to catch Ross County. Yeah,
definitely. So to everyone who is taking part in the live chat just now, to Frank, to Red, to Edward, to Niall, to Danielle, to Scott, to everyone else who has been taking part, a big thank you, and especially to you, Bojo the Clown, because that's a fantastic name. The Clyde boys are just about to go live. We've made our predictions. If you're going to a game, enjoy them. And if you are betting on a coupon, then do gamble responsibly. We'll be back on Monday night to review all the weekend's fixtures and what should be another scintillating cinch. Until then, take care.